focus. So I asked developers, what are the most frequent causes for production issues? And I thought, based on this, I will match the right testing technique. And I was very surprised from the result, because number one makes sense, it's logic bugs. Yeah, makes sense, there are also integration issues, but number two, on the right side, can you guess what was number two? It was unpredicted input. I could not guess what the input that will feed into my component. And it makes sense, because we are in the area of loose schemas, JSON, MongoDB, even the structured database, biggest feature of the recent years is JSON columns. And we have so many dynamic sources of information. It's not only human being, it's bots, it's devices on the field. And also our code right now, with all this NPM outreach, can run in so many different situations. Think of it, you are a Lodash developer or developer in Google VA team. You created now a method that compares strings. So how do you test it? You try it with 3 values, 5 samples, 7. But then in production, millions will stretch it in so many different permutations. How can you get this confidence? So luckily, there are multiple testing techniques to deal with rich type of inputs. I will cover some of them and show you a quick demo. The first one is fuzzing. Just curious, who here knows what's fuzz testing? Cool. I wish I could show you a demo, but I will just go very briefly over some of them and then focus on one. Fuzz testing means tools. There are a lot of tools for that will send a lot of random data. Some of them is data that is known to be malicious, and it will try to take down your application, whether it's your API or there are even some tooling for front end. So the aim here is to try to identify where your application crashes or gets into a DDoS condition. And it's very cool, but we want to test more than this, right? We want also to test for correctness, only to see that our components bring back the right values. So this is where property-based testing comes into play. It's a very powerful technique. I urge you to read about it. It basically randomizes a lot of data to your method. So if you have a method with 5 parameters, it will call it 100 or 1,000 times with different combination and permutations, and tells you when it returns the right value. It's very interesting. But I want to focus today on another one, because it's more testing in production-like. So the problem with property-based testing is that it's synthetic data, it's randomized data. But the most realistic one comes from production, right? So traffic shadowing, what traffic shadowing does is that it takes your production data, input, live or maybe later, and play it against your testing server, your next iteration. And then it sees if your components are ready for the richness and unpredictedness of your production data. How exactly does it work? Let's see. So we have a lot of users or devices of sometimes thousands of different data generators. And they call our production, right? Number one there. So we need a shadow tool. Some tool, there are multiple open source tools for that, which will capture this information and store it in some, optionally store it in some storage for later replay. And then, immediately or afterward, it will get replayed to your testing environment. So you can land your next version there, few days before you're deployed to production, and see whether it can handle all the production data. Then you can look in the staging environment over your metrics, error rate, CPU, and if it tends to behave like production, and normally you get much more confident. If you want to take it even one step further, you can also compare. See that every response of your staging and server matches, same HTTP status, for example. And then they seem to behave similarly. So this is one of the techniques that is part of testing in production. Usually people speak about it in an abstract way using slides. I decided to create a demo. So help me the God of demos. So let's see how exactly it looks live. Okay, let's start the production process and the staging one. Okay. Cool. So what do we have here? This is based on a real system that I'm working on with my customer. It is a smart car garage. What does it mean? We have tens of thousands of cars, and each one of them has a smart tracker in it. So they report with diagnostic information about themselves. The engine, the oil, the tears. It's a big JSON with a lot of diagnostic information. Now, there are many different types of trackers. So we have to handle 100 different types of schemas. Okay? So each car is sending constantly to the cloud, big JSON with some schema with diagnostic information about itself. What you see on the left side is the production, right side is staging. Now I'm developing the new version, and I'm asked to add this code. Sounds trivial, right? If the temperature goes above 100%, 120% temperature, shut off the tracker. But there are so many cars and trackers and schemas that I'm not confident enough whether it will work for all scenarios and all situations. It's very hard to test for this because we have so many different type of trackers. So what do? I have 3 days before deployment. I'm ready, more or less. I want to play the production data into the right side, into my staging, and see that they behave the same. So how do I achieve this? Basically, whenever I click here on every car, you see the number increasing here. It means that this car sends an updates, but nothing happens on the right side, right? Obviously, it's a different environment, might be different cloud. So how do I map the traffic from production to staging? I have to use a tool. In this demo, I'm going to use a tool which is called Go Replay. It's one of the open source tools for traffic shadowing. So basically, with one command, this one, I can intercept all the network traffic to production and send it to different cloud, different server, different whatever. So now, when I will click on the car here, you can see the number is also increasing here. Okay? The traffic is mapped. So if I click on the button simulate here, it will just replay with many cars, and it will simulate production behavior with many updates from car. And I want to test it for a few days. If everything will be cool, we will see this kid doing that sign. If not, what will happen? Well, okay, so a small story. This takes us to Justin Bieber. I had a talk with my friend, Daniel, who is a known NPM contributor, and we thought how much impact you can create with NPM packages today, or with code. You can solve real-world problems like energy problems, anger problems. So we thought, what is our next project about? And he told me, I have an idea. Let's create a test runner that every time a test fails, plays a Justin Bieber song. And I was kind of, what? It's a dumb idea. I don't know how he convinced me to work on this project. So if our test will fail, you will hear a Justin Bieber song. I apologize for that, and crossing my fingers that everything will work. So I'm clicking simulate here. And if things works correctly, you should see the number growing on both sides. I think they do. Yeah. Can you see everything that is being played to production is also mapped to the staging? So it can be 3 days with millions of requests. And not only this, the tools also compare. If some production route will return some HTTP status and staging a different one, the test will fail right away. And it gives me so much confidence. Okay. Just fail. Justin plays. You have to get punished if your test fails. So I think Justin Bieber is a good. It will show. It's one other tip. If you want to write better tests, this is a. So what happened here? What's happened here is that one of the 100 trackers that we have, one of the cars doesn't have a temperature attributes. And as a developer, it's really easy to fail and miss one scenario. And I couldn't predict it in development time. But thanks to real production data for days, I was able to identify this error and fix it early enough. So this is an example of testing with production data, and there are many other techniques for testing with production, can help you ship better code. Let's go back to the